Imagine the ocean not as a body of water, but as a prison with no walls and a ceiling made of fire. In November 2012, José Salvador Alvarenga pushed his small fishing boat into the surf off the coast of Mexico, never imagining he wouldn't touch dry land again for more than a year. He wasn't alone. Beside him stood Cordoba, a young, inexperienced deckhand who had never faced a real storm. They were chasing shark and tuna, lured by the promise of a big payday. But the clouds on the horizon were gathering a dark, heavy secret. The storm hit with a violence that defied logic. Waves the size of apartment buildings crashed over the bow, snapping their engine like a dry twig. They were drifting into the deep, dark heart of the Pacific, lost before they could even scream for help. For 5 days, the wind screamed. When it finally went silent, the horizon was empty. No shore, no lights, just a blue desert stretching 5,000 miles in every direction. Their GPS had died, and their radio followed shortly after. They were ghosts. Survival became a war of the smallest margins. To find food, they reached into the water with bare hands. Alvarenga learned to catch sea turtles by their flippers, dragging the heavy, snapping shells onto the deck. It was the only way to stay alive. They drank turtle blood to keep their kidneys from failing. It was salty and warm, a grim fuel for a body that was eating itself. Every sunrise brought the same realization. They were still here, and the world had likely forgotten they existed. Weeks turned into months. Alvarenga tried to keep Cordoba's spirits up by daydreaming about food. He told stories of tortillas and cold beer. But the younger man was fading. His body couldn't handle the raw diet of birds and jellyfish. Then came the moment that would haunt Alvarenga forever. Cordoba looked at him and said he couldn't do it anymore. He stopped eating. He stopped fighting. One night, the young man simply slipped away into the silence. Loneliness is a different kind of predator. Alvarenga kept the body on the boat for 6 days. He talked to it. He asked it questions. He couldn't bear to be truly alone. Eventually, he realized the madness was taking root. With a prayer that drifted into the wind, he pushed his friend into the deep. Now there was only Alvarenga and the 6,000 miles of water. He began to count the moons. 1 moon, 2. He lived in a cycle of killing birds and waiting for rain. Birds became his main prey. He would sit perfectly still for hours, his hands poised like claws. When a seabird landed on the boat, he would lunge. He ate them raw, feathers and all, his face smeared with the reality of survival. The sun was a physical weight. His skin turned to leather, peeling and burning until it just stopped reacting. He would hide in the small cargo hold to escape the midday heat, curled up like a child in a womb, dreaming of rain. When the rain finally fell, it wasn't a blessing. It was a frantic race. He would use empty plastic bottles he found floating in the trash to catch every drop. Water was more precious than gold. Every sip was another hour of life. Ships passed him. Massive steel leviathans that could have saved him in a heartbeat. He waved his arms until they screamed. He signaled with mirrors, but he was too small. To them, he was just another piece of ocean debris. Despair is a quiet thing. It doesn't roar. It whispers that it's okay to just stop. Alvarenga thought about the edge of the boat constantly, but then he would remember his daughter. He hadn't seen her in years. That thought became his anchor. 400 days. Think about that. Over a year of never seeing a tree, never hearing a human voice, and never standing on something that didn't rock. His mind began to fracture. He spoke to the sharks. He sang to the moon. Then, in January 2014, the blue horizon broke. A smudge of green appeared. It didn't look real. He thought it was another hallucination, a cruel trick played by the salt and the sun. But the green didn't vanish. It grew. It was Ebon Atoll, a tiny speck in the Marshall Islands. He had drifted nearly 9,000 miles from Mexico. He threw himself into the surf, the waves tossing his battered boat against the reef. He didn't care. He crawled onto the sand. The first humans he saw were 2 islanders. They found a man who looked like a bearded wild animal, clutching a knife and shouting in a language they didn't understand. He was a ghost that had finally come back to the world of the living. When the world heard his story, they didn't believe it. They said it was impossible. No one survives 438 days at sea in a small boat. Doctors examined him, looking for the signs of his ordeal. They found a man whose body was a map of suffering. The return home was more difficult than the drift. He had to face Cordova's parents. He had to explain how he survived, while their son did not. The guilt was a heavy sea that never quite calmed down. People called him a hero. He just called himself a survivor. He had learned that the human spirit is not a flicker of a candle, but a roar of a furnace. Even when everything is stripped away, food, water, hope, the will to breathe remains. He eventually reunited with his daughter, the girl whose face had kept him from jumping into the Pacific. It was the only victory that mattered after 438 days of war against the elements. Today, the boat is gone, and the sea is still out there, vast and indifferent. But José Salvador Alvarenga remains as a testament that no matter how far you drift, as long as you keep rowing with your heart, you can find your way back. The ocean didn't just take his time, it took his sense of reality. For months afterward, he couldn't sleep in a bed. It was too still. He needed the motion, the reminder that he was still afloat. The war may have ended on the shore, but the echoes remained. Scientists studied the currents that carried him. They plotted the 9,000-mile journey across the equatorial Pacific. The math checked out. He had performed a miracle of biological endurance that challenged everything we knew about the human body. He eventually returned to his home in El Salvador, a man who had literally come back from the dead. His village treated him like a saint, but he stayed inside. The noise of the world far too loud after the silence of the deep. The memory of the birds often returned. He remembered the feeling of their hearts beating against his palm before he did what he had to do. Life, he realized, is just a series of choices between the difficult and the impossible. The lawsuits came later, claims of things that happened on that boat that only he and a dead man would ever know. He weathered those storms too. He had survived the Pacific. He could survive the lawyers. Truth is often stranger than fiction. He still dreams of the water, not the terrifying waves, but the deep, indigo peace of the nights, when the stars were so bright they lit up the deck. In those moments, he felt connected to everything. He was the only human in a world of water. His story is a reminder to us all. When you think you are at your limit, when you think the storm is too high and the radio is dead, look at the sea, look at the horizon. There is always a way through. You just have to stay on the boat. From 2012 to 2014, the world moved on. Wars started and ended, fashions changed, and billions of lives were lived. And all that time, one man was simply drifting, refusing to die. That is the ultimate war story, the war against the end. If there is one thing to take from the story of José Salvador Alvarenga, it is this: never underestimate the power of a single human life to endure the impossible. Good night. Thank you for listening to this incredible journey of survival. If you found this story powerful, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the limits of human endurance. Until next time, the Pacific is a vast graveyard, but for 438 days, it was a home, a cruel, beautiful, and unforgiving home.